Keen. It's Comics and Shots, a completely improvised semi-comedic music by Howard Stern's Mick the Nerd, aka YouTube and TikTok's Mick the Man, aka Mick the Maverick, aka the guy who will stick with batteries as long as fucking possible, Comcast. Today's subject: super science in comics. Specifically Marvel. I've been reading a lot of Amazing Spider-Man 2022 by Zeb Wells and Joe Kelly through totally legitimate means, mind you. And it's brought up a weird thing in comics that I didn't really realize until recently. This wasn't the first comic to do this, but it's kind of an all-around problem where super genius just means an all-encompassing term for all science, but that's not really how it actually works in real life. Peter originally was mostly chemistry and electronic engineering, with the spider tracers and everything, radio stuff. And then at one point he discovers Parker particles, a form of energy publicly undiscovered by man that is more powerful than the Phoenix Force. I say publicly because apparently Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, discovered it years before, but just lied about discovering it because he was afraid people would use it for dangerous purposes. I don't know who wrote that story, but that's not how that's not responsible science. If you discover a thing, you need to publish it and tell people the dangers of it. Yeah. But once again, Peter Parker, chemistry, radios, GPS, and then particle physics. One of these things just doesn't belong here. Yeah. It's weird. And then in the recent stories, he's helping Norman Osborn work on rocket propulsion. I'm 100% sure he has never worked on rocket propulsion. Norman Osborn, yes, with the Goblin glider, with that little flying thing, which is also not a glider. The Goblin glider is not a glider. It is a flyer. It is a Goblin flyer. It's only called the Goblin glider simply because of alliteration. I miss the broom Goblin had because that made more sense. The Goblin glider, it's not a glider. Gliders don't fly. Flying is different than gliding. Yes. And I bring up Spider-Man first and bring up another superhero who's probably a worse example. Worse is mean negative impact on how science works. Hank Pym, the Ant-Man, Goliath, Giant, Yellow Jacket, Ultron. His primary focus of study originally was discovering the Pym particles, quantum physics, particle physics, that stuff. And then somehow, for some reason, he creates an artificial intelligence in Ultron. What? I'm more forgiving of Ant-Man, but because it was the Silver Age, Peter discovering Parker particles. That's a dumber example, but it's also robotics, artificial intelligence, and particle physics are three very different forms of science. It's just weird that he is a master of all three of them. Ultron's origin is just weird in general, because Hank Pym, he studies ants, he studies Pym particles. Those things kind of make sense together. And then he also makes an artificial intelligence that is smarter than any other artificial intelligence that has ever been made. Hagadaza, what's going on? The only character that I feel doesn't bug me about this rule is Reed Richards, because he's clearly a sorcerer. He's magic. He is the science man. He is the man of science, the scientist supreme, I think. Yeah, he's a magic man. So he can do all the science, all of it, all the time, always. Partying, dancing on the Midnight Clam. Yeah. But Ant-Man and Spider-Man, though. No. Like, they're geniuses, mind you, but their fields of study are just too broad. It's like, if I were to see the Vulture create robots, no. He's a magnetism expert, electronics, force fields, yada yada yada. Ugh. Although I would be remiss if I wouldn't say that I would like if the Vulture would step it up. I love Adrian Toomes. He's actually kind of a badass sometimes. Supposedly only 238 official appearances. I feel that can't be right. I feel that can't be right. That seems too small. I feel that can't be right, my baby. I feel that can't be right. Ultimately, though, it all ties back to this suspension of disbelief, and, you know, it's like, it's, you know, but I feel it's in a really inaccurate way of depicting science, because science is not just one giant umbrella term. People study specific things and work hard on the specific things they decided to study upon. And just having it be so that science is just some umbrella term that anybody can just automatically understand because they're a genius kind of lessens the impact. And I hope we learn from that in the future. I really do. Especially Spider-Man, because like his scientific expertise really just it's just so confusing. It's so confusing, Jackson. It's so confusing. Jackson. With it, like, comment, and subscribe. Donate if you're feeling nice. Share it with a bear. And always remember, praise be to the blood elk, fear the Stavopotamus, and death to Kronos. My next video is probably going to be about the Neil Patrick Harris Spider-Man cartoon. That one is interesting. Very interesting. Have a night, folks.